Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Who shall I send? And who will go for us?" And I said, "Here I am. Send me."
Tucked away behind the hills of Kabula, there's a little church hidden in the woods that is hardly known at all, but that is of immense historical importance. It stands there as a monument to turbulent times gone by, to the strength of faith, and to the triumph of peace. Unfortunately, this monument is now falling apart and needs a new lease to life. To understand the importance of this treasure, we have got to go back to the very beginning of how it came to be built. Welcome to Church of Uganda, Chinunka.
This is the story of Chinunka Church of Uganda, a hidden historical treasure tucked away behind the mountainous hills of Kabula in Uganda. How it came to be and why such a little church is of such immense significance. The story of Chinunka Church really begins in April 1875 with the arrival of this man, the British journalist and explorer Henry Morton Stanley, at the court of Kabaka Mutesa, the King of Buganda, who ruled Buganda from 1856 to 1884. Mutesa, who was at the time well versed in the teachings of Islam as well as practicing it, though not circumcised into the religion, held many lively discussions about Christianity with his visitor Stanley during the latter stay at the palace. By the time Stanley left Mutesa's palace on the 17th April 1875, the king's interest in Christian teachings was so high, he appealed through Stanley for teachers to come to Buganda and teach Christianity. Stanley therefore wrote his famous letter to the English newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, appealing for missionaries to come to Buganda to teach Christianity and the Christian way of life. He gave the letter to Colonel M. Ernest Linant de Bellefonds, who happened to be at Mutesa's court at the same time, to take north into the Sudan to send on to England. Sadly, Colonel de Bellefonds was killed on the 26th August 1875 at Labore in Sudan while still carrying the letter, but the letter was recovered from inside his boot and sent on to England. On the 15th of November 1875, the letter appeared in the Daily Telegraph, appealing in part that, oh, that some pious practical missionary would come here. What a field and harvest ripe for the sickle of civilization. The English public responded so enthusiastically to the letter that within a very short period of time, the necessary funds were collected and the Church Missionary Society, CMS, was able to send a group of 8 missionaries known as the Nyanza Group on their way to Buganda. But because of the hardships of the odorous journey, sicknesses and death, only 2 of the group initially arrived at Mutesa's palace. On the 30th June 1877, the Protestant missionaries Lieutenant Shergold Smith and Reverend C.T. Wilson arrived at the king's palace to a very eager welcome by King Mutesa, who is said to have paid them the honor of getting up from his seat to shake hands with the pair. The two set up the first Anglican Protestant mission in Buganda. Roman Catholic missionaries came next. On the 17th February 1879, 2 French Catholic priests of the White Fathers, Brother Amans and Father Simon Ladel, who came to be known as Mapera, also arrived in Buganda and set up missions and started to teach Christianity. By the time Mutesa died on the 9th October 1884, The three religions, the Anglican Protestants, the Roman Catholics and the Muslims, were well established in Buganda, with sizable followings, especially at Mutesa's court, and especially so among the pages who were being groomed to become leaders. Mutesa was succeeded by his 18-year-old son Mwanga, who was said to have not had his father's political stature and acumen. Mwanga found himself worried for his authority, as it became ever clearer to him that the converts of the three religions no longer regarded him as the absolute monarch he was supposed to be, but preferred to listen to their religious leaders than to the king. In October 1885, suspicious of those who traveled to Buganda by the back door through Busoga, King Mwanga ordered the arrest of 37-year-old Dr. James Hannington. He was on his way to Buganda to take up his appointment as the first bishop of Equatorial Africa. Fearing for his kingdom, Mwanga had him and all his porters held captive for 8 days at Shando in Busoga, after which he had them all killed on the 29th October 1885. The death of Bishop Hannington caused a lot of dissatisfaction among the Christian missionaries and their converts. One prominent page at the palace, Joseph Mukasa Balikodembe, dared to criticize the king for killing an innocent man of God, and for that he was executed 2 weeks later on Mwanga's orders on the 15th November 1886 at Nakivubo, Kampala. A monument marks the place of his martyrdom. He was the first of the Christian converts in Buganda to suffer death for their faith and religion. From then on, trouble between King Mwanga and the converts to Christianity as well as Islam intensified, and converts were persecuted and many killed. This hostility culminated in the execution by mutilation and by burning alive of 25 Christian converts at Namgongo on the 3rd June 1886 on the orders of Mwanga for refusing to renounce their faith. These young men are now known as the Uganda Martyrs. 3rd June is celebrated in Uganda as Martyrs' Day. Eventually, the struggle between King Mwanga and the converts to the new religions came to a head when on the 1st August 1888, converts of the three religions in a united action deposed King Mwanga, forcing him to flee to Karagwe in present-day Tanzania. Mwanga's elder half-brother Chiwewa was installed as king in his place. But the alliance of the religious factions did not last, and in October that same year, fighting broke out between the Christian converts on one side and the Muslims on the other. At the time, the Muslims had superior military strength, and they defeated the Christians and put them to flight. Chiwewa was deposed by the Muslim forces, and his younger brother Kalema, who had agreed to circumcise and convert fully to Islam, was made king in his place. Chiwewa was then imprisoned together with many other princes and princesses in a prison known as Katereke, or Kalema's prison, surrounded by a 30-feet deep ditch, where they were all later executed. The Christian missionaries were thrown out of Buganda, their missions banned, and Buganda was declared an Islamic state. Meanwhile, the Christians fled across Buganda, through the jungles, through the swamps, until they reached the hilly Kabula area of the Kingdom of Nkore, where King Ntare agreed to give them refuge and protection. It is in Kabula that they stopped for breath, prayed, kept their faith alive, and planned on how to go and fight back into Buganda. The Protestants were led by people like Apollo Kagwa, Hamu Mukasa and Nicodemo Seboato, and others, all of whom would play important roles in the future of Buganda. It was from Kabula that they planned their counterattack against the Muslim faction in power in Buganda. A year later, on the 5th October 1889, the Christians defeated the Muslim faction and reinstalled King Mwanga as Kabaka. This marked the end of the Islamic State in Buganda, and everybody was once again allowed freedom of worship. The 5th of October was from then on marked as the Buganda Peace Day. Subsequently, Apollo Kagwa became the Katikiro, and Ham Mukasa also attained great political standing in Buganda. Nicodemo Sebwato became a deacon of the Anglican Church and also held the position of Pokino. But the Christian leaders never forgot their refuge in Kabula and how it enabled them to keep their faith burning while they were fugitives. Eventually, both the Christian factions built churches in Kabula as monuments to remind them of their days of refuge there. The Roman Catholics built a magnificent structure at Lyantonde on the Masaka-Mbarara Highway. They named it Chijukizo, Uganda for monument. Likewise, the Anglicans built a church some 9 miles in the hinterland west of Lyantonde at a place called Chinunka, short for Chinunka Mugaju, Runyankole, for the place that smells nice.